They say salt is banal, useless, just another spice that accompanies everyday dishes. But that's precisely what they want to show us. Because if they knew what salt really is, if they remembered its ancestral power, they wouldn't just use it to season food. They used it to protect their homes, conceal energy from psychic attacks, close portals, purify their souls, and break the anger passed down from generation to generation. And why doesn't anyone talk about it? Why have we been taught to view salt as something mundane and not, as thousands of years ago, as one of the most sacred and feared substances in the spiritual world? The answer is as simple as it is terrifying. Knowledge is power. And when you remember the power of salt, it's not so easy to manipulate. They fail to balance their energy or passively accept inequalities that rob them of their life force. Salt was revered in temples, used in secret rituals, sacrificed to the gods, and feared even by those who felt hidden. It was a weapon, a protective shield, and a portal. It was a symbol of purity, immortality, and impunity. And even today, though hidden and forgotten by many, its vibration remains active. In this video, we explore salt, why its frequency is the highest as a spiritual element, why its use is hidden and discredited, and how to reactivate its power in everyday life. We'll explore ancient texts and secret practices, and how to recognize when a simple act of salting can mean the difference between clarity and chaos, between safety and impunity. This video won't be a classic one, as we'll treat salt not as an object, but as a silent being with memory, power, and consciousness. If you're willing to open your eyes, you'll realize it wasn't just salt. Before salt was relegated to the status of a mere seasoning, it was considered a sacred element with spiritual properties that few other substances could confer. In ancient civilizations, salt was valued not only for its ability to preserve food, but also as a symbol of the eternal soul and an important element in rituals of purification, protection, and connection to the divine. In ancient Egypt, salt was used for mummification, not only to preserve the body, but also because it was believed to preserve the spiritual essence of the deceased and protect them during their journey to the West. It was not a technical process, but a sacred act. The Greeks considered salt a divine object. Homer called it a divine substance. The Romans believed that sharing salt with someone formed an irrevocable bond of loyalty and protection. Hence the soldiers' salt beads, hence the verb to salt. Salt was sometimes thought of as a pearl-shaped object, for where there is salt, there is also a womb. In the Bible, salt symbolizes the divine matrix. In Leviticus, the salt matrix is mentioned because God is in harmony with his people, a symbol of durability, inviolability, and indestructibility. Jesus said to his disciples, "You are the salt of the earth." What did he mean by that? Why didn't he call it light, water, or fire? Because salt protects the essence of the procession and prevents the soul from sinking into darkness. In shamanic traditions, the salt procession was a fire, a method of gaining protection and burning dense energies. In Islamic thought, salt served, in some Sufi narratives, as a symbol of the ego purified by divine consciousness. In the folklore of many cultures, salt was sprinkled on the left side of the body to ward off evil spirits that sought to ward off evil. It is fascinating that isolated civilizations achieved similar results. Salt is not just a physical substance, but an energy carrier with powerful spiritual properties. But something happened. As esoteric knowledge was replaced by institutional dogma and modernity gave way to materialistic rationality, the spiritual use of salt fell into disrepute, a symbol of distrust, and was even banned in some religious contexts, not because it was bad, but because of its great effectiveness. The system cannot control those who know how to protect themselves. However, those who understand the vibrational power of salt possess a natural defense against many forms of energetic and spiritual manipulation. This is why salt, once used on altars during initiation rituals and spiritual purification, has become a staple in the kitchen. The sacred has become commonplace, but salt has not forgotten what it is. And it should not, for by perceiving its history, its symbolism, and its vibration, we understand that what we hold in our hands is a hero of our ancestors, still awaiting awakening. To understand why salt is a spiritual weapon, we must examine its structure, not only physical but also energetic. Salt in its purest form, crystalline, nitrous, and chlorinated, possesses perfect geometry. Its cubic structure reflects order, symmetry, and balance. In esotericism, form is vibration, and vibration is consciousness. The universe reacts in its deepest state of coherence. Salt is a substance that imbues structural coherence, and where energetic chaos reigns, such as in crowded environments among tired people, or in spaces laden with negative and emotional memories, salt serves to restore the original balance. This is why the ancients used salt not only to purify rooms, but also to break mirrors. A pot of salt in a room is not a relic, but a vibrational antenna that absorbs, neutralizes, and transforms dissonant frequencies. It is a silent guardian that requires neither words nor complex rituals to function. Its mere presence is enough, for salt, like fire, is an element that does not accept vibrational lies. Wherever it is present, the hidden emerges to the surface. Density empties and the invisible is renewed. One of the greatest effects of salt is its ability to disrupt negative and electromagnetic fields, both physical and electronic. Indeed, salt energetically disrupts recurring patterns of thought, feeling, or influence reinforced by the environment. Therefore, during salt purification rituals, such as smudging boxes or safety circles, a release often occurs, as if something has been separated or set aside. This is not an illusion, but vibrational physics. It is no coincidence that salt is associated with water, another great vector of memories. Sea salt, in particular, possesses the vibration of the ocean, the sea, This is why in many practices of inner alchemy, the adept salts his body, that is, makes it as orderly and pure as the structure of salt crystals. For only purity can contain the eternal. Even deeper, many occult texts affirm that salt has the power to fix intentions. In other words, when salt is sealed with a powerful affirmation, a clear vision, and an intention aligned with inner alchemy, it acts as an anchor. It can be distributed around the room, placed in pans, mixed with essential oils, or buried in the earth. Whatever its name, it activates when it comes into contact with the body's magnetic field. In other words, it's a spiritual technology with programmable memory. If all this, along with its ancient ritual use, is true, why is the spiritual use of salt so widespread? Why does modern media dismiss it as superstition, an unfounded belief? Because those who understand it are no longer dependent. Those who know how to purify their space, seal their energy, and break magic without resorting to gurus or mediators are free. And spiritual freedom is what is feared most in a system that thrives on confusion, fear, and inequality. Some dark practices are ineffective in the presence of salt. There are manipulative rituals, domination practices, and nearby entities that simply cannot anchor themselves where salt has been consciously activated. Therefore, those who participate in these movements avoid salt or consider it ineffective and a relic of ancient times, because they know that a single handful of salt can dissolve energy structures that have taken years to build. Salt penetrates astral larvae. Salt dissolves unconscious pacts. Salt triggers the explosion of invasive frequencies. But it's also used here. It's not just about the salt, but about your connection to it. It is your words, your presence, your intention that vibrate within this substance, a symbol of unpredictability since the dawn of time. And that is why it was so well hidden. For when you understand your true strength, you cease to be violent. Understanding the spiritual power of salt is only the first step. True awakening occurs when you consciously choose to use it as a tool of purification, protection, and activation. For salt is not born of accusations, but of vibrant intention. And when your intention is clear, salt becomes a true unconscious pact, created in a way that rational understanding cannot comprehend. One of its most effective uses is to purify your personal energy field. To do this, simply take a handful of sea salt or coarse salt, preferably unrefined, as it contains traces of the primordial energy of the earth and sea, and pour it into a warm container. Enjoy at least 15 minutes of silence. Breathe deeply and visualize how each particle absorbs energetic reflections, recurring thoughts, intense emotions, or external influences that have entered your field. This bar is not just physical. It is an act of vibrational reconstruction. It's no exaggeration to say that such a bar can change the course of your day. Another effective technique is to use salt to protect your rooms. Place small containers of salt under your feet at home, especially when you feel depressed, tense, sleepless, or frequently involved in conflict. Let it sit for 7 days and remove it from your home without touching it directly. Salt absorbs discordant vibrations from its environment like a mirror. It's important not to reuse it. To enhance the effect, you can add rosemary, eucalyptus, or lavender essential oil to intensify the subtle purification. For safety and protection rituals, you can place a salt circle around a sacred object, an altar, or even yourself during deep meditation or moments of heightened sensitivity. This circle acts not only as a physical barrier, but also as an energetic one. Feel how the salt becomes a living wall that repels any distortion that is not in harmony with your light. You can also use salt at the entrance of your home, on doors and locks to filter incoming energies. If you need to release negative energies, you can use your beloved salt. Charge with your intention. Pay attention to the salt in your hands. Meditate for a moment and mentally repeat an affirmation, such as, "This salt dissolves all foreign, energetic connections. May my salt return to its original purity." Place it on your bed, in your workspace, on photos, letters, or objects that symbolize past connections. Put it away the next day and return it to the land or the sea. But perhaps the most important thing isn't the how, but the where. Because if you use salt out of fear, you only reinforce that fear. If you use it out of anger, you carry that vibration with you. Therefore, every practice should be an act of focus, clarity, and spiritual sovereignty. Don't use salt as a defense against evil, but as a reminder of its unchanging light. Salt is not a talisman, but a mirror, and what it activates depends on what you wish to awaken within yourself. No need for complicated rituals, no need for external initiations. Just be present. A pinch of salt, a firm resolve, and a deep conscience. That's the formula. And if you apply it, no mirror will be able to touch you. Salt is not just a mineral substance. It is a memory. It is a symbol. It's a bridge. It's one of the few natural products with the power to cut, seal, transform, and protect. It wasn't forgotten by accident, but because remembering its power means rediscovering a part of yourself that was never accidental. A part that knows how to protect itself, purify itself, and find its sacred center without anyone's permission. Today they remember that simplicity can be sacred, that an element as common as salt, in its perfect structure, hides an ancestral wisdom still active, waiting to be consciously reactivated by someone, them. It is no longer a question of knowing what nourishes it, but of placing it on the inner altar, because they are the temple. And salt is one of its forgotten guardians. Use this knowledge. Don't just present it as additional information. Don't reduce it to curiosity. Observe it, feel it, savor it. Speak to the salt as if you were speaking to silence. Love it, respect it, light it, and you'll discover that what seems mundane is actually one of the most powerful tools you've ever been given. When you see another handful of salt, don't think cooking. Think magic. Think about memories. Think about protection. Remember who you were before you forgot your strength. And then remember, the sacred knowledge is returning, and you are ready to receive it.